The United Kingdom's economy has been in a steady decline following the budget announced by Shadow Chancellor Rachel Reeves. The painful financial measures have shaken business confidence, with both investors and entrepreneurs pulling their money from the market. This exodus has resulted in stagnation, leaving the economy without significant growth. Additionally, the British pound has suffered, dropping sharply from a summer high of $1.34 to a 15-month low of $1.23 against the US dollar. Amidst this economic turbulence, Rachel Reeves has faced criticism for her absence in the House of Commons. Instead of responding to the urgent questions regarding the situation, she delegated the task to Darren Jones, Chief Secretary to the Treasury. This move has only fueled further concerns about the leadership and direction of the Labour Party in these challenging times. Just watch this furious clash between Mel Stride and Darren.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To ask the Chancellor of the Exchequer if she will make a statement on the growing pressure of borrowing costs on the public finances.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and Happy New Year to you. I'm always grateful to see members of the opposite party welcome me to the House. Look, financial markets are always evolving, as the Shadow Chancellor knows. So it is a long-standing convention that the government does not comment on specific financial market movements, and I will not be breaking that convention today. Financial market movements, including changes in government bond or gilt yields, which represent the government's borrowing costs, are determined by a wide range of international and domestic factors. It is normal for the price and yields of gilts to vary when there are wider movements in global financial markets, including in response to economic data. In recent months, moves in financial markets have been largely driven by data and global geopolitical events, which is to be expected as markets adjust to new information. UK gilt markets continue to function in an orderly way. Underlying demand for the UK's debt remains strong, with a generally well-diverse investor base. The Debt Management Office's gilt sales operations continue to see strong demand, with the latest auction held yesterday receiving 3 times as many bids as the amount on offer. The Chancellor has commissioned the Office of Budget Responsibility for an updated economic and fiscal forecast for the 26th of March, which will incorporate the latest data. Only the OBR's forecast can accurately predict the effect on the public finances of any changes in financial markets or the economy, and I will not preempt their forecast. There should be no doubt of the government's commitment to economic stability and sound public finances. This is why meeting the fiscal rules is non-negotiable. But can I end, Mr. Speaker, by saying that I'm pleased the Right Honourable Gentleman is holding this government to account on our stewardship of the economy. It is important that he does so, because he will remember when his party crashed the economy with unfunded tax cuts, unrealistic public spending cuts, a clear disregard for the consequences for family finances, leaving families across the country still paying the price for their disastrous performance on the economy with higher mortgages and bills. If there was one clear reason why the Conservatives suffered such a historic defeat at the last general election, it was because of their performance on the economy. And presumably, Mr. Speaker, that is why the Shadow Chancellor himself admitted in December that the lack of trust in the Conservative Party's management of the economy has left, and I quote, a deep and painful scar in the pockets of every person across Britain. And let me tell you what has changed. Let me tell you what has changed, Mr. Speaker. This Labour government has, in the first 6 months, exposed the £22 billion black hole in the public finances. Not only have we exposed it, we have dealt with it, with the Chancellor's autumn budget, protecting working people, wiping the slate clean from the mess the Conservative Party left the country in, and investing in our NHS and our schools. We've given the Independent Office of Budget Responsibility enhanced powers of oversight in law, so that we will never get into the situation again where that lot left the country with a £22 billion black hole in the public finances. We have set tough new fiscal rules that are non-negotiable, with a budget settlement for public services that they must all live within. And we have kick-started growth in this country, the #1 mission of this government, by unlocking investment and bringing forward reforms, for example, in planning and the Mansion House speech. So might I say, Mr. Speaker, to the Right Honourable Gentleman, that this is in stark contrast to the negligent, shameful horror of a circus performance that the Conservative Party unleashed on this country when they were in government a few years ago. And until he can come to this House with an apology for the British people, I will not take any lectures from the Conservative Party about how to run the economy.
Right, Shadow Chancellor of the Exchequer, Mel Stride.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. A slightly anxious and breathless performance, I think we've just seen. Which leads me to the question, where is the Chancellor? It is a bitter regret that at this difficult time of these serious issues, she herself is nowhere to be seen. Mr. Speaker, in the last 48 hours, borrowing costs have reached a 27-year high, and it is the Chancellor's decisions that have led us here. Before the election, the Right Honourable Lady promised that Labour would get debt falling. They would not fiddle the figures, they would not raise taxes, and they would grow the economy. But the economy is now flatlining. Survey after survey is showing business confidence has simply evaporated. And at the budget, Mr. Speaker, the Chancellor hiked up taxes, increased borrowing by an average of £32 billion a year across the forecast, and conveniently adjusted her fiscal rules to allow her to do it. Higher debt and lower growth are understandably now causing real concerns among the public, amongst businesses and in the markets. And despite what the Right Honourable Gentleman says about international factors, the premium on our borrowing costs compared to German bonds recently hit its highest level since 1990. With these rising costs, regrettably the government may now be on course to breach their fiscal rules. And the Chancellor has committed to no further tax rises. So does the Right Honourable Gentleman stand by her commitment not to increase taxes even further? And if so, does this mean that the public should expect cuts to public service spending if the OBR judge her fiscal headroom has evaporated? Mr. Speaker, there are media reports that the Chancellor will make an emergency intervention to soothe markets, but with no confirmation that this will occur in this House. Can I ask the Right Honourable Gentleman to confirm that any such statement will be first made to members in this House? Mr. Speaker, rates on government bonds ultimately feed through to the broader credit market. So what estimates has the Treasury made of how recent market movements will impact mortgage costs and lending across the economy? Mr. Speaker, I make one final point. Every pound we spend on debt interest is money we cannot spend on the public's priorities. The government's decision to let rip on borrowing means that their own tax rises will end up being swallowed up by the higher borrowing costs and at no benefit to the British people. Far from this government laying the foundations for a stronger economy, the Chancellor is squandering the endeavours of millions of hard-working people up and down our country who are now having to pay the price for yet another socialist government taxing and spending their way into trouble. Does the Right Honourable Gentleman not now accept that it is time to change course?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm pleased the Right Honourable Gentleman enjoyed my performance. I've not even had my first cup of coffee yet this morning. Look, let me answer some of his questions. Honourable members on the benches opposite might like to listen if the questions are so important to them. He asked me about the Mr. Speaker, he asked me about the fiscal rules. As I said in my statement just now, they are non-negotiable. As the Chancellor set out at the budget, we have two fiscal rules: one, that day-to-day spending should be met by tax receipts, and the second, that debt should be falling as the size of the economy. And he talked about the debt burden this country has. Maybe we should just reflect a little as to why we have so much debt. It's because pre-pandemic, Mr. Speaker, if you look at the burden of debt inherited by this government from the party opposite from 2010 onward, why did the last government have to borrow so much money every single month, not just to invest, but to pay the day-to-day bills? Because of an absolute failure to get growth into the economy. They could not make the numbers add up. They've stacked up the country's credit card. They've left it to this party to deal with, and we are going to deal with it. That is why these fiscal rules are non-negotiable. That is why public spending will be within the numbers set out at the budget. We're starting the spending review now. It will conclude in June. Public services will have to live within their means. The Chancellor has been very, very clear about that. And that's why, with this government, you get economic stability, absolute clarity on public spending, and that is why the British people trust this party and booted that lot out of office.
Do you think this Labour government has ruined the United Kingdom's economy? Please like this video if you agree and comment down your thoughts.